Grand Poobah, the queen of the Black Millennial Cafe. What up, girl?
I'm glad. I think I've missed Mass for the People. I think I don't know if they missed us, but I missed them. So I'm excited to be back. I'm excited to be back.
Well, come on. We since we've gone off for about a month, there's a lot that's been happening. And so certainly we are excited about our guest lineup for tonight, but we thought it'd be important to bring us back into the conversations series because of all of the many developments that have been going on related to COVID, related to elections, and the perhaps many ways that we must kind of put back on the front of our mind the issues related to Mass for the People. You are in Texas and Dallas, if I believe. How are things happening and going in Dallas, Texas?
Oh, if you came to Dallas, you wouldn't even think there was a pandemic happening out here. I'm telling you, they acting like nothing is even happening. They out here, twerking in restaurants and getting cussed out by the owner. They're doing games, they're doing everything, having house parties. So, they're not taking it seriously. So I have to live in a bubble here so that I can feel safe. But it's not good this way.
What do you think is the reason why you think people are just kind of hitting the wall? I mean, it's holidays, and I think a lot of folks were taking it serious maybe 50, 60% of the time. Do you think people are just kind of hitting their end of it? And it's kind of in the wrong time to do that because we're seeing upticks everywhere, particularly in the South. I know California, we just got a notification that we are being asked to do a safer at home, shelter in place. They're shutting down businesses, I think, today.
That's because your officials care about you. See, they don't care. And Ricky Smiley just had a comedy show at the Improv, from what I understand. I mean, like, they are just back at it.
Like,
now, it's a lie. The radio station told it.
Wow.
So, it's wild out here. And I just think really, unfortunately, the media doesn't multitask well. And so it's like either COVID or it's George Floyd protests or it's the elections, but they're never really balancing it well. So right now they're talking a lot about the vaccine. They're not giving us the death tolls the same. We're not talking about racial disparities anymore. And so when people were sheltering in place and like really afraid of it, those were better days. But now the numbers are higher now than they were in the days when we were sheltering in place. And people are acting like it doesn't even exist. It's just hard. And I know life is tough in quarantine. Everybody, I'm an introvert, so it's not horrible for me. Like 20% of the time, I'm like, what does that mean? But most times I'm fine. Mm-hmm. I know that's not the case for everybody, but I don't even think it's like, oh, I hit a wall or I'm having cabin fever. I think people just aren't taking it seriously. And every time, like, I have a family member who's doing something crazy and I tell them, they're like, everybody I know who had it lived from it. Okay, but there are lasting, impact, and we don't even know all the lasting effects. And in addition to that, you don't know if you're gonna live and die. Like, as soon as you get it, you should probably go and like call a lawyer and do your last will and testament first, because you just don't know if you're gonna live. You might be gone from here in 4 days, maybe 14, maybe 40, but you just don't know. So why take the chance? And everybody's willing to take the chance out here these days, not just. Missy said if it's worth it, work it, So I guess it's worth it for them and they working it. They out here in these streets.
Well, that's one of the reasons we thought it'd be important to bring this conversation back, because over the next several weeks, at least through the new year, we're going to bring on some folks from the communities of science and health to give us real-time updates. The vaccines are now starting to roll out. We're going to bring on some folks from the vaccine community, the Tuskegee Institute. We're going to bring on folks to help us figure out how to navigate through these new developments. And we know that there's a huge election that's happening in Georgia that will decide the fate of the Senate and really kind of help determine the extent to which this new administration will be able to govern and really get their strategies and their policies implemented. So lots of things happening. Mass for the People. We're back for at least another month or so. So hang out with us every Monday from 4 to 5. We're going to bring you some of the best conversations that we have to offer. I'm excited to bring our first guest to the room. His name is Freddie Figures, y'all. He is a computer programmer, inventor, and an African-American entrepreneur. He is the founder and owner of Figures Communication. Y'all gonna be blown away from hearing from this brother. He's from Tallahassee, Florida. He has literally launched a telecoms business that is, and I think will be, the most premier Black-owned empire of telecommunications. And I'm so glad to have his dear brother, good brother, on our show, the great Freddie Figures, coming in the room all the way from Tallahassee.
Hey, thank you so much for having me, Pastor.
Oh, come on, man. It's great to have you here. And it is indeed a gift to have you hanging out with us. Tell us a little bit about where you're from and kind of your story yourself. I did a little bit of a bio, but we got a chance to talk earlier today, and I'm just blown away by your journey. So give it to us a little bit.
So I'm from a little city outside of Tallahassee called Quincy, Florida. It's in Gaston County. I was born and raised there. At my early age, I was adopted by my adopted parents that was going into their 70s. When you think about parents and you think about someone that's in the age of 70 bracket, they're thinking about grandkids and great grandkids, not adopting a newborn baby that was abandoned. So my parents adopted me, took me in, and raised me as their own. But one of the beautiful and key things about my parents was when around the age of 8 years old, I've always wanted to be a quarterback. But my parents didn't really believe in, playing sports or, really anything. So my father bought me a non-working computer from Goodwill. I took that computer home and played with it about 40 times and got it to working. So
Wow.
that started me right then and there into technology. Fast forward a little bit, at the age of 12, I had a part-time job at the city of Quincy. I was a computer technician. And, once I mastered computers, I kind of wanted to go into the networking side to see about how does the networking and the computers, connect to each other? How can they share resources from a local and a server standpoint? So I mastered networking, went into software, and I've been at it ever since.
Listen, man. Now, y'all looking at this brother, and I need y'all to know this brother is a bit over 30. You understand what I'm saying? Like, this brother he's a prodigy, y'all, and I want y'all to appreciate that he has a massive telecommunications enterprise that all of us need to know about. You can go right now to figures.com, I believe, right?
Correct.
FIGGERS.com. All y'all just type that into your browser real quick. Tell people about this telecommunications company that you built and what is so unique about it.
So Figures Communication is a telecommunications company that provides cell phone service, mobile broadband service, and international calling services. One unique feature about us is we manufacture our own devices. So when you think about some of the big carriers, only thing they do is they retail, some of the other manufacturers' phones. Figures Communication, we build our own phones and we provide the service. And we're the only Black telecom in America.
Wait. Say that again now, dear brother. You just gotta say that real quick. And I just want to make sure I heard that right. I mean, just so you make it from scratch.
Yes.
It's for us, by us.
Yes.
We call masks for the people. You might as well be called phones for the people. Something like, and you said you're the only Black telecom.
Yes, sir. We're the only Black telecommunications company in America.
Dr. Bree,
independently owned, independently operated.
What you think about that, Dr. Bree?
I mean, what can I think about it? I mean, I feel like Nicki Minaj, teach me, baby, teach me. Okay, I'm just a little CEO of a small business, I think it's amazing, but I'm really most like, when I hear your story, I'm wondering what it feels like to now realize your parents' rejection of the idea of you playing football got you to this place. I mean, sometimes we think parents just don't understand. Maybe they understand more than we think. So what does it feel like to be able to live in the success of what they started?
So one thing that I believe in on a personal and moral integrity standpoint is always pay it forward. And I always go back and I tell young children that, you don't have to be an athlete. You don't have to be an artist to make it out of the situation that you're in. When I was a kid, I loved football. I wanted to be, a quarterback, but I was a little too short. So I've always tell children, no matter, what you want to be in this world, you can accomplish it. So just, don't focus, on sports if you're not, athletic,
There are other ways out. So tell me this, since you know what success is like, to watch what's happening in our country, right? From pandemic to protests to all that's going on, you're talking about paying it forward. Did you have a moment where you sat down with your company and said, hey, we have to offer something? Like, how are we going to help? What are we going to do? How are we going to get the message out? Like, what are we going to do to make sure we're impacting this country amidst devastation? And if you did, what did that look like?
So when COVID-19 back in February, March, I saw the pandemic coming to the United States back in October of last year.
That's because
it was only it was only a matter of time before it reached here. So I immediately sat with my team and we started, putting boots on the ground abroad, gathering all the personal protective equipment that we could. As of today, we've donated over 2.6 million pieces of personal protective equipment.
Wow. That's amazing.
We took a private cargo jet, went and picked up the
That's your private jet?
No, it was a cargo jet. It was a cargo jet.
Know like how depressed I should feel about my life. You had a jet, but okay, I'm back.
It was a cargo jet. So we went and got N95 face masks, disposable masks, face shield, hand sanitizer, gloves, gowns, everything. We got it back here to Florida. We impacted every health center in the state of Florida. We went to Georgia. We went to North Carolina, went all the way up to New York, New Jersey, Michigan, cut over, went to Washington State, cut down to California, came down to Texas, Arizona, Texas, and back to Florida. So we impacted all the first responders in the areas that was in need, and mostly impacted our communities. Some of the public housing, a lot of FQHCs across the country as well.
Do you find that this kind of response was unique in the kind of space that you were in, or what drove you to that response? I mean, sometimes we think of businesses and we find that people are profiting during the pandemic. They're profiting off of the kind of misfortune and misery. You have a value system that drives you totally different, and I think it informs figures as a kind of larger company. Talk about the things that drive you in this regard.
So again, it goes back to more integrity. It's ways to make money without taking advantage of people. And what really bothered me was seeing that there was other organizations out here while, there was families struggling that needed, assistance. It was companies out here just selling, personal protective equipment. Mm-hmm. So, a company that's small as ours, compared to the 4 other major carriers, we immediately, took that action approach and said, hey, we're going to do something to help and support throughout the country. And again, seeing the federal government lack of response, I knew I had to step up to the plate. And one thing about Figures Communication and Fig Health, 20% of our gross revenue goes back to our foundation. Wow. So we believe in paying that forward. So the other big corporations don't believe in that. They believe in, return on shareholders' investment. I believe in paying it forward to the people.
Freddie, that's more than a tithe. You giving a whole double tithe over there back to your foundation. People, I'm trying to tell you, your parents really raised you right.
Yeah, we our foundation have done so much since 2015. We've given out over 500 scholarships. I've got over 90 at-risk males in college. I've got a school in Zambia. I've got an eye center in Jamaica. So we do a lot.
Listen, I wish I was in school to come get a scholarship at this point.
Freddie,
I can't go back though. I owe too much.
Listen, Freddie, I want people to know how to access your company's kind of portfolio, your services. We're gonna do some work together. We gonna have a big old launch or something. I know in the future sometime. But the people who are watching this, I want you all to know that we have a young man who is a church guy who was raised by some good old Southern black folks in Florida, and he got him a big old company that's been free PPE out to the people. 20% of his research going into the foundation, and you can buy home internet, business internet. You can do all of that through this brother's Figures.com, Figures telecommunication. Brother Freddie, tell people, how do they plug into you? How do they make sure that we are supporting Figures? And in real talk, what are some of the things you have on the horizon for 2021?
So you can contact us at figures.com. All of my personal social media hashtags is Freddie Figures. All of our company hashtags are Figures Wireless. But for 2021, we have so many different new patents that's coming down the pipeline. One thing that we've successfully built is a ultra medical freezer that can store the COVID vaccine.
What?
Yes. So
are y'all listening to this guy?
So we just filed for the patent.
Freddie, wait a minute, Freddie.
Where he come from, man?
I don't know, but I'm gonna keep you. Do you want to be my friend? Do you want to be my best friend?
Of course.
Best friend now, because you're just ahead of the game, and that's what I need to surround myself with. What have I been doing?
Go. We didn't mean to interrupt you. So you say you have because many of you may not know this, but as the vaccine rolls out, because of the way it's obviously been developed, you can't store the vaccine in regular refrigerators. It has to be stored in a special facility to maintain, I think, a negative 50 degrees.
Right. It's a liquid hydrogen. So what happened is we successfully built a ultra medical freezer that can sustain temperatures, negative 80 degrees Celsius. These temperatures, refrigerators work as reverse engineering. So the hotter a refrigerator gets, the colder it will intake. So we've mastered 22 compressors, and we're using liquefied natural gas.
This
I don't even know what that
means. We're doing a lot, and we got new products that's coming down. These are signature F buds.
No. Keep that up so we can see, bro. I want us all to see that.
There you go.
Come on, so those are earbuds that are Figures. So for Christmas, y'all, we can. I'm a
buzz. But the beautiful thing about our F buds and all of our products are innovative. When they're paired with the Figures F3, it automatically would translate 90 different languages. So if someone calls you speaking Spanish or French, it'll translate that in real time, or your preferred language that's connected to your phone.
You got like Star Trek. You got the Star Trek immediate.
Yeah. So and then this is our Figures phone right here. So this unique device right here has multi-user profile. So if I ask you, Pastor, could I borrow your phone? Chances are you're going to tell me no, because once you type in your password, I can go through your text messages, your pictures, everything. With a Figures phone, you can actually sign into a guest profile, hand your phone off. You don't have to worry about signing out.
Freddie, cheaters, Freddie.
Listen, I had a couple editorials about that nicknamed the cheating spouse because of some situations that happened, but that has nothing to do with us.
Let me tell you, I believe it's for cheaters now.
Well, because most of our clients are healthcare professionals. We provide service to one of the largest healthcare facilities in America. So when you think about healthcare providers, they have two phones. They have their personal phone and they have their company issued phone. So a Figures phone combines everything into one. So you have your company profile and then you have your personal profile. And our phones are dual SIM card capabilities and they're globally unlocked. Wow. So you have two phone numbers on one phone.
I could use that. I have two phones. I could really use that. I'm gonna have to check into this. I don't know though. Listen, if I was in a relationship, I would not want my man to have a phone because I don't go through phones, But if I did, I'd be like, no, babe, we got to go to another company and let me trust you with the Figures phone.
But I think there are such other good uses for Figures phones besides the population of people Reverend Dr. Bree seem to be fixated on over there. Figures.com. Freddie Figures. Listen, brother, it's been great to have you here hanging out with us. I appreciate your brilliance, your ingenuity, and your charity during this pandemic. I think this is the best of what the post-pandemic life has to look like. Our people doing things for us, by us, with just the care and concern of folks in mind. So, Freddie Figures, everybody, follow him on Twitter and Instagram. Follow Figures Communications, Figures Wireless on all these social media platforms. And go to Figures.com We're gonna have some stuff happening with Freddie Figures and Mass for the People and Black Church Pact and Live Free. We're gonna do some good work together. So let's thank Freddie Figures for hanging out with us today, everybody.
Thanks so much.
Thank you for having me.
Oh yeah, great to have you. Listen, Reverend Dr. Bree, I'm telling you.
Listen, I'm so inspired. Now I also feel like I'm not so smart, but that's okay. You know, I want to be able to keep reaching for the stars.
Yes, I think sometimes humble pie is needed for you at times to kind of keep you keep you
I'm just like, give me a book, somebody. Like, what did I miss? He's like,
what
yeah,
I love about him. And shout out to the PR whisperer herself.
Listen, isn't this amazing?
Farmer, who put him on my radar, our radar. What I love about Freddie is that he's so humble, but he's very clear about his mission, very clear about his passion. Again, if you didn't catch the way he told his story, by the age of 13, he was a computer technician and network administrator for his city, Quincy. At 16, he founded Figures Computer. 17, he had a cloud-based hosting network. This brother been doing it for a minute, and he's brilliant. And that is what the people looks like.
Wait, before we slide past that, let's not forget that the PR whisperer, Jennifer Farmer, I have to say, and I always say, I wouldn't be here today as Black Millennial Cafe's CEO with the success that I have without the help of Jennifer Farmer. So I don't want to, glance over that too quickly because she's pretty amazing.
She is the great Jennifer Farmer, as far as I'm concerned. And so, Mass for the People. I told y'all we coming out the gate. We coming out the gate hot. Listen, our next guest, I'm so excited to invite Tony Houghton to the show. He is the president and CEO of Self-Enhancement Incorporated. It's a nationally recognized youth development organization in Portland, Oregon. He founded it as a one-week seminar for basketball camps, and it was providing a positive alternative for African-American teens living in the area of Portland, plagued by gang violence, poverty, and a public school system that was leaving it behind. Under his leadership, it has now grown to be a safe haven for over 17,000 youth and families. This is a wonderful, amazing brother who is literally putting in time in the neighborhoods that we care about the most. Let's welcome to the Mass for the People show, everybody, Tony Houghton Sr., all the way from Portland, Oregon.
We've had a couple people from Portland so far. They've all been great people.
We have.
Oh, we can't hear you.
You're muted, dear brother. Hit that mute button so we don't get robbed of the Portland, Oregon vibe of the great.
All right, can you hear me?
Yeah, there we go.
All right. Good to see y'all. Appreciate it.
Hey, man, it's great to have you here with us. And, part of what we have figured out during this pandemic, as we were just saying with Brother Freddie and we're saying with you, now more than ever is the time for us to save us.
Yeah.
To do the hard work of building business, programs, interventions that help center the struggles of our communities, because nobody's coming to help us. Talk to us a little bit about Self-Enhancement Inc. and the work you've been doing, and what drives you? What drives you to do this work? I mean, 1989, that's a good, 30, 40 years in the game.
Yeah. So
you got to end it, brother. You got to end it.
Yeah, well, first of all, let me say it's tough coming up after Freddie. Now that's some certain impossible squared right there. He's doing some tremendous work. That's like something from the future listening to him. Like, he's really doing that stuff, man. That is great. That is great. But for me, as you say, doing something for our own community. So I'm soon to be 67 years old. So I grew up during the Civil Rights Movement. So for those of us who grew up during that time, if you were just looking at TV or looking at your community, you couldn't help but to think something needs to change. So you can either be a part of the problem or you can be a part of the solution. So I've always been one of those that felt like we need two lanes. You need a lane of putting pressure on the powers to be, whether that's the school districts or government, to get it right. But at the same time, what are you doing for yourself? So we founded SEI out of need. Black kids that wasn't making it in school based on all of the inequities and racism that we know are alive and well. So can I actually change white folks to get them to do what they're supposed to do? Or can I create something to make sure that I fill all of the gaps for the children and families that look like me? So we started SEI around basketball camps initially, because even in basketball, it was inequities there. I mean, the teams that were traveling, they didn't look like us, and the coaches wasn't picking us. So we started it there first just to be able to show young people how to transfer skills that they learn in sports back to the classroom and back to career fields. And after that, begin to grow it, got into the school system, began to have the opportunity to provide in school and after school and summer services, and wrap the holistic approach around our children and families, recognizing that if we could do that, we could help keep them in school, get them graduated, and get them moved on to become positive contributing citizens. We've actually been graduating Black students at a 98% clip for almost 3 decades.
Wow.
And in most cities, we talk about the achievement gap and our students not being able to make it. We don't have that problem. Our problem is getting more resources to serve more of the children and families that look like us.
Oh, that's beautiful.
Yeah, I mean, again, part of the reality I've found working with young people over the years. So I'm 45, and I've been doing kind of work with young people for almost 20 years straight. My experience when you work with young people, it's not that they don't like to learn; they don't like the teachers who are teaching them.
Absolutely.
And
we got a whole concept around being culturally specific. So in the schools, there's not a whole lot of Black folks. Again, we are in Portland, Oregon. There are a whole lot of Black folks, period. But through our program, we can put Black men and women into those schools who look like those kids, who can relate to those kids, who are coming from the same communities as those kids. So you're absolutely right. They're willing to learn, but they need some motivation. And sometimes motivation can be as simple as having someone that looks like them, that they know they can trust in those classrooms with them.
Well, how has COVID been impacting the city and the community of Portland and the young people? A lot of our young people, me and Reverend Bree were talking about this a little earlier. Folks just aren't taking this virus as seriously as some of us would like. I talked to some young cats while we were doing some of our violence prevention work in the neighborhood, and one young cat told me, McBride, I'm staring death in the face every day. And I'm talking about real death. So this thing you talk about, I don't even see it. I can't smell it. So if it's going to get me, it's going to get me. And so we really have a bit of a project on our hands to make sure that we are helping our communities to see the importance of saving our own lives, of engaging in the kind of harm reduction strategies, the mitigation efforts. How is that happening in Portland? And do you find that to be true there?
Absolutely. Absolutely. I think for us, given the fact that we have direct access and connectivity with our young people, we can share the message in a way that others might not be able to share it. In our program, we are a case management type of program. So we have these individuals, you would call them mentors, we call them coordinators that have relationships with kids. So through those relationships, we can kind of get the message across and show them what's going on in the states and across the country around COVID. But COVID seriously has been very impactful to our community. In fact, myself and some others had to put pressure on the governor because they had no special programs for folks of color, even though we know it's a disproportionate number of people of color being impacted by COVID. We had to get them to give up some resources where we actually put together the first opportunity for Black people to actually get tested in Portland. That was through the agency that we run. And then we built relationships with some of the hospitals so that we could continue to get our folks tested, number one, and then two, get the PPE equipment so that we could then distribute that to the community. So from a community standpoint, we've been able to make a difference. We actually had a group of folks put enough pressure on our governor that they actually released $62 million just for Black people.
Wow.
So we could take those resources and put it through our community around Black folks that had small businesses that needed help, nonprofits and individuals who needed help, which is, that's unprecedented and historical in a place like Portland, Oregon, to get that kind of thing done. But as
pause right. Tell me a little bit, just walk people through some steps, because this kind of advocacy is what we're going to have to do in lots of cities across the country where Black and brown folks are in the minority of the population, but having outsized kind of impact of the disparity of COVID. You said you moved $60 million. What kind of things did you do? Was it letter writing campaigns? Did you do phone calls? What kind of things did you do?
Well, I think I tell folks, based on George Floyd and what happened around that and Black Lives Matter, there's a lot of come to Jesus moments for a lot of folks who are in government and running companies, et cetera. So much of this was just based on, well, and if you follow any of the news, you could also see that Portland, Oregon was a hot spot around that. I mean, folks tore up some stuff in Portland, Oregon.
Yeah.
Not one day, not 1 week, but for months. So Black folks was out in mass. Now, I will say that some of the violence that occurred was not Black people. Mm-hmm. We was out there protesting about George Floyd and Black Lives Matter. But because of that impact, the whole state was watching and the whole state knew that they needed to do something. So it wasn't letter writing. It was getting to the governor and getting to legislators and saying, it's obvious that the inequities are alive and well in the state of Oregon, and we need to do something about that. And based on the history of Oregon, we believe that this would be one route that you could make a difference. So we pushed the envelope, had several meetings behind closed doors, and was able to get that push at the legislative level through the governor to identify that money. Now, having said that, most states is getting $200, $300, $400 million. So we say $62 million, like that's a lot of money. That's nowhere near what Black folks deserve here. And what would that number be in some of our major cities where there's larger numbers of Black folks?
100%. 100%. I mean,
what can I do? Local elections matter, Pastor Mike. And I think this is what we forget, that it's important to put people in place who will actually be impacted by your words. I use very strong language, like people you can bully, not legit bully, but people who will listen to your needs. In Texas, we don't have people like that. We already know that if they just don't wake up on the right side of the bed that morning, we're all in danger. And most days we're in danger. But that says a lot about what's happening in your local elections and how engaged you've been in the political and civic process to say, hey, we're not writing any letters. We don't have to do all that. We know who has the money. We know what to do. And we're going to make sure that they feel it if it doesn't happen.
Absolutely. Well, we're the largest African-American nonprofit in the state of Oregon. So we touch, as we said, about 17,000 folks. We're $20 million a year, got about 300 plus African-Americans who work for us. So given, one of the challenges, Portland is fairly small. So on one way, that's a problem given we don't have a large number of Black folks, probably about 6% in Multnomah County, 2% for the entire state. But the fact that we're small, we can get our arms around some of these issues and actually make a difference. And that's what we've been able to do around COVID and around the whole concept of Black Lives Matter. I mean, we're riding a wave here. The money is flowing now, but I've been on the planet long enough to know that the money has flowed before. So it's not going to continue to flow quite in this way. So we're taking advantage of what we see right now and trying to put some away for the rainy day, because we know the rain is coming.
Yeah. Well, I do know that the work of intervening with young people and families, particularly during this global pandemic, has to be a multi-interdisciplinary effort because we already had pre-existing, not just health conditions, but pre-existing social conditions, right? And so the idea that you have a 30-year-long organization that knows the community, it is that kind of historical footprint that I think we're trying to get the Biden administration and many others to understand that our communities have very trusted folks in neighborhoods and communities. You don't have to rebuild or recreate the wheel. You can actually do investments with folks that are literally there. And so as we wrap up with you, what are 2 or 3 things that you're hoping this kind of global pandemic called COVID, this new administration that is coming in, what are some opportunities that you hope in your years of kind of work and forecasting to 2021? We saw Brother Figures, give us a tech layout. What is your social layout for 2021?
Well, I think what's most important for us to recognize that we are not going backwards. It will never be like it was. Technology is here to stay. Yeah. Virtually learning is here to stay. So I think the fact that we have so many Black folks that don't have access is what needs to change. And all of us as Black people got to understand that that is the way of the future. And if we don't put more energy into making sure that every household has the ability to access technology, it's going to be a problem. To me, that is the number one issue that this has brought to life for all of us. We've been forced into it, but based on the fact that we've been forced into it, is actually a blessing in disguise. It's time.
Yeah, absolutely. I also see you have some homies in the chat who are making sure you tell everybody the website that is selfenhancement.org so that they can go see what y'all are up to, make sure they're supporting you, and just, everything has been all FUBU today for us and by us. So we got to make sure we're supporting, we're giving, we're, participating to make sure we don't just live, but we thrive, and our organizations need to thrive.
Absolutely. One of our saying is life has options, and we put our name on every child, put our name on them just like they are ours. So all of us need to think about that, treat everybody like you want to be treated. I mean, most of this work is pretty simple. If you just follow through and do what you would do for your own, if you do that for everybody, it makes all the difference in the world.
I agree.
Tony Houghton Sr. from Portland, Oregon, the Self-Enhancement Incorporation. They're here giving us a roadmap on how to love and take care of our family members and friends and community members. Thank you so much for your work. He got 3 decades he's been putting in the game, y'all. He's a legitimate OG.
Pastor. All right.
All right. We're going to stay connected and stay in touch.
Absolutely.
Will do.
All right. Tony Houghton, y'all, all the way from Portland, Oregon, kind of tapping in with us, helping us to be reminded that we don't got to start from scratch. We got organizations, we got capacity, we got infrastructure, and it's literally saving some lives.
Yeah, I thought that was pretty great. And 31 years, you're hard pressed to find organizations who get to last these days. You know what I mean? Like, and it's not because they're not good, but because of resources and exposure and so many other things. But to hear they've been doing such amazing work for 31 years it just says a lot about how God has been moving and how God has favored them and journeyed with them. I think it's awesome.
Yeah, part of what I'm starting to realize too as we navigate through this pandemic is we are finding lots of parts of our communities kind of contracting, becoming much more vulnerable because of lack of capital. Obviously, our small businesses are taking a hit. Our churches and religious kind of institutions are taking a hit. Our CBOs, I know they're all struggling as well, but a lot of our CBOs are probably going to be those kind of
CBOs.
So community-based organizations are likely going to be like we just had right here, right? They are likely going to be the kind of ligaments, if you will, that carry us across these very tumultuous times because they're going to be offering direct service to people. And so I hope all of you that are listening that you figure out what is the kind of organization in your city that reflects these kinds of frontline services. Through our Gun Violence Prevention Network, we have a whole host of them that are literally on the ground. They're interrupting violence, but they're also providing mental health support. They're providing food. They're providing clothing. We're actually launching a season of peace for the next 3 to 4 weeks using organizations like Brother Tony Houghton's that we just saw, Life Camp, Advanced Peace, Live Free Chicago. We're going to be in a lot of different cities trying to figure out how do we galvanize our collective capacity to do healing work. And that is really what we have to figure out. How do we heal and recover from, certainly COVID-19? Thankfully, we got rid of Donald Trump. Well, almost. I mean, he's still hanging around.
Like he don't want to. It's just like the person who like leave you alone, but they don't want to be like officially quit. Like you ain't been leading us for 4 years. Just go on and get on out.
Go on and get out, please.
You ain't been presidenting.
Yes. I can't wait for him to exit stage right and go back from whence he came.
Listen.
But the reality is we're going to have to heal. We got a lot of healing. We got a lot of rebuilding to do. And so for us, by us, it's a real thing. And I hope that we figure out ways to cultivate that kind of sensibility. This match for the people, everybody. We are wrapping quickly to the finish line. I am super excited because we have one of the most anticipated guest we've had so far. I'm super excited to welcome Tony Rock to the show. He is a comedian, actor, producer. They say he's the hardest working man in show business. He is being featured on All Def Comedy, NBA TV's The Warm Up, Black Card, Revoke, Apollo Live, and he's co-starring in his first primetime network series, Living Biblically. And I'm super excited to have this brother hanging out with us today. The great Tony Rock is coming to the stage. Come on.
I'm not worthy of that introduction. That was too much.
Tony Rock, everybody. That's good enough.
Tony Rock, everybody. He just here. Big shout out to the great Kristen Ingram of Plus One. She is just helping us to secure some super inspirational and important folks that are in line with the vision and the spirit of Math for the People. And so, Brother Tony, as you come in the room, so much gratitude for you being here. But you know that we are kind of living through historic times, dear brother. And, you know, the world has changed, my man. I mean, it's changed right before our eyes.
The world has definitely changed before our eyes. This is unlike anything we have ever seen in our lifetime. This is the type of stuff we used to read about in history class and think, how did they live like that? And now we're in it.
Right. Ain't that funny? People used to be like, man, if I was alive back then, I'd do this and this and this and this. And people put on a mask. It's like,
this is one of those, like, if that was me, I would just, we in it. It's like, it is you. It is you.
I know. But 2020 is going to like take over the history books, right? We got to talk about pandemics. We got to talk about presidential elections. We're going to talk about protests. I mean, 2020 is going to be like 2/3 of every history book anyone will ever read because so much history was made this year. It's wild.
No, when you read American history after 2020 going forward, it'll be American history. It will be its own entity, and then 2020 will be its own book. It will be its own. When you go to school, it will be like, I have my history book and I have my 2020 book.
Right.
2020 is separate from all other history.
Seriously.
So, as you have gone through just in your own personal life and journey, we've had COVID-19. We refer to Trump on this show, COVID-45. We also have COVID-16-19. We call that white supremacy. So we've been dealing with lots of viruses. How have you just endured this year? You know, obviously you're a comedian, which means that you have the gift of being able to tap into people's emotions and hearts and help them to find joy in the midst of some forms of misery. But I don't want to just run past the human toll of this year on so many people. How have you been holding up, and what has sustained your spirit and your life during this time?
Oh, thank you for asking. First of all, I hope everybody's out there being safe and practicing social distancing and wearing their masks, because that's very important. I've been maintained through the COVID because I was on the road in March when the country shut down. I was on the road. I was in DC. The show that night in DC got canceled. The next night we were in Virginia. They did the show. They didn't think it was that bad. And then they shut the country down the next day. So I flew back to LA, and my son was born on May 2nd. I had my firstborn son. So I was happy to be in the house thank you so much. I was happy to be in the house for 6 to 8 months doing nothing, because I wouldn't have had that time under any other circumstance. So I always try to find the silver lining in anything horrific, anything bad I see. There has to be some good in it. The way the Most High works is something goes up, something has to come down. The good Lord will always keep the world balanced. So in the midst of this horrific stuff came this beautiful blessing for me personally.
Yeah.
So that's how I maintain. Also, like you said, the fact that I'm a stand-up comic, I am people's escape from the harshness of the world. I am the light that they come to seek and try to just take their mind off it. I can't take it away, but I can certainly take their mind off it for some time. I just got back in town today. I was on the road this weekend in where was I? I was in Tempe, Arizona. Tempe, Phoenix.
Oh, that's my hood. I went to Arizona State.
Oh, well, you know, #1 party school in the country.
It was. Hello.
Don't she sound like she be? Don't she sound like she?
Yeah. You saw the flashback, right? She's like, oh, that's my school. So yeah, I've been able to be people's, calmness in this storm, and I think that, like what you said about Trump and COVID and and racism, they're all kind of closely related. That's what makes 2020 so weird. It's like they all kind of begat almost each other, so to speak. Because Trump's negligence led to the pandemic. It could have been just a virus sweeping the nation. His arrogance and his just ignoring the science led to this thing reaching these levels. So that kind of helped that. The racism of the country being angry and him lighting those flames and fanning those flames led to the whole I don't want to wear a mask and this is un-American. And so they all kind of turned one into the other. It was weird to watch it. It's very weird.
Yeah.
Yeah, he was like the perfect storm in a real terrible sense of the word, you know.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah. I mean, do you feel like as you're starting to go around, I mean, I hope you're shutting things down because, man, we're going to have some of our medical and science folks on next week. They're thinking that COVID is going to be, oh my goodness, the next 3 months are going to be the worst it's ever been. And they're pointing to the spike we're seeing now is from Halloween.
You know what it was? You know what it is?
We've not even seen the spike from Thanksgiving yet.
Wow. It's definitely going to be here longer than people think because half of the world doesn't believe in the science for whatever reason. And this is what I've said this on stage, and I say this every time. For some reason, white people have an issue being told to wear a mask because it stems from them not readily accepting anybody telling them what to do in general.
Preacher.
Right.
They can't even accept keep your dog on a leash. So you think they're gonna accept like you're gonna wear a mask everywhere you go? They just won't. They won't receive it. And if a black person tells them that, then they weaponize the police and call the cops.
Yeah.
And that leads to all different types of problems. Yeah. So COVID's gonna be here for some time.
Yeah, I'm with you. And it's the most ridiculous part in it all is like, I know when they're saying things about masks, like this just isn't logical. Like use good logic. And it's not true, but because you have to support Trump, because you have to continue with whatever mantras that they have going on about it being un-American or whatever they're telling you in the moment, you just hold tight to it knowing good and well you're headed toward death. Like I saw, I think on CNN, someone was saying that their mother died. And so they were totally not down for Trump. And the other sister was like, he didn't kill our mom. COVID did.
You know what Trump is? Trump is the personification of if you tell a lie long enough, it becomes the truth.
Wow.
That's Trump's it's fake. Every time somebody says something that he did in politics, oh, it's fake news. It's fake news.
Right.
But it's actual, it's fact-based and it's actual, but he'll just brush it off as fake news. And he's actually brilliant in this regard. He's brainwashed his followers into thinking that everybody's against him. So if they're against me, then they're against you too. So now you feel like you have to uphold this banner that he's, walking with because you feel like you're being attacked as well. And what he did is actually very genius. I will acknowledge genius wherever I see it. What he did was he empowered poor, white, uneducated people that felt like they're losing the country to blacks and Mexicans. Mm-hmm. And there has to be an excuse for why they're in this position because white people can't accept the fact that they're doing bad just because they're doing bad. By virtue of white, they feel like they should be doing better than everybody else. So when they're not, there has to be someone else to point the blame at other than pointing the finger at themselves.
There's a term to what you just described, just in case some of you are listening feel like, man, what is Tony Rock talking about? That's like racist. It's called the politics of grievance. I mean, there's all kind of research about how people tap into racial grievances as a way to politicize them to vote against their own well-being and interests. Mm-hmm. And I do think we who are trying to figure out how to navigate these times, we can't just become so kumbaya-ish that we don't have an analysis to navigate the reality that we're facing, because it is a dangerous moment when people, to your point, Tony, can't even acknowledge the truth. Like it's like, how do you have a conversation with someone who won't acknowledge that 2 + 2 = 4? I mean,
it's the hardest thing in the world to do is to talk to somebody with facts and they just go off their unbased beliefs.
Yeah. Well, tell me a little bit then. We gonna end on a lighter note. I didn't know we was gonna get so heavy, but brother, I can talk more about this heavy stuff, Doc. I was thinking we was gonna laugh our way out the door. But tell me,
I'm well versed, man. I could talk to a Fortune 500 company. I could talk to a brother in the barbershop. I'm well versed.
Listen, we appreciate it. Trust me, we love to see it.
And we just had brother Freddie Figures on earlier. Mm-hmm. This is a brother who literally has started his own telecoms communication. It's the only Black-owned telecommunication firm. It's called Figures.com. You should look it up because it's a fascinating thing. We've been talking about for us, by us. As you have developed your own brand, right, your own kind of business, and talk a little bit to us about what do you think a for us, by us vision needs to look like as we go through the pandemic on the other side?
Okay, first and foremost, I skimmed through. I didn't read the whole breakdown when they sent the invite. I just saw Freddie Figures. I immediately assumed rapper. I just pictured a guy with a bunch of money in his hand, like, I'm getting these figures. It's Freddie Figures. So I'm happy. I'm happy in that regard to know that he's doing great things in telecom. Like, that's very nice to know.
No,
I was about to ask what the mixtape name was.
Look, I'm gonna tell you said that, and I'm gonna connect y'all.
Okay, but to answer your question, for us, by us, what does that mean for me going forward? You said?
Yeah. Just what do you think we have to have a vision for how we, as people disproportionately impacted by this virus, start to do a both and strategy? Obviously, I'm not one of these people who say I just need to pull out of society. I still pay taxes. So my tax dollars mean that this country owes me something in real time. Right. But we also have ingenuity. We have resources. We have infrastructure. We have talent. We have analysis. We have gifts. How do we start to network those gifts so we don't have to wait for the recovery that will likely be slow to come on the other side of COVID?
Well, you said it first just now. You said what's the vision? That's what we need first and foremost is a vision. We need a plan and a vision. We need to understand where we are. First of all, we have to have a firm grasp and understanding of where we are.
Yeah.
And then it's where do we want to go? Mm-hmm. And then it's step by step. Every step has to be with a purpose. Every step we take has purpose. Has to have purpose to it. So for us by us vision for me is first and foremost coming together, understanding as far as COVID is concerned. They say it affects Black people more so than it affects minorities more so. Why is that? Because minorities have the worst diets in the country. Nobody eats worse than Black people. we think because we ate.
Put your hands out of my pocket.
We think because we ate slave food, we should continue to eat slave food.
I say we should just eat it once a week, Tony. I'm just saying, I'm in the South, and on Sundays, I don't want to eat kale and salmon.
Everything in moderation, even moderation. But that's why we're affected so much, because we have the worst diets.
Facts.
And if you have a pre-existing condition, then COVID hits you harder. So the bad diet, that's the gout, that's the heart disease, that's the hypertension, that's the high blood pressure, that's the sugar, that's the salt. That's why we in the bullseye of the COVID. So we have to understand that first. Monetarily, we have to understand that we spend in this country, Black people spend the most money and make the least.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So we have to understand that we're hustling backwards.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
If we can empower our money, we can empower ourselves.
Yeah.
And I said this before, I think that when stuff happens in this country, like, a police shooting or police violence towards the unarmed civilian, that's when we really need to monetize our money and say, listen, we're boycotting this company until they put the money up for adequate counsel for this person. Because a lot of times somebody gets shot by a cop and they don't have no money to really fight like that.
Right.
Yeah.
So it's like, okay, Nike, we gave y'all $5 trillion in the last 5 years. We need 20 million from y'all to get adequate counseling for this brother.
I'm with it. And you know what I've noticed, Tony? Like when you have people who are white supremacists or cops who are white supremacists, and they do this evil stuff, you go back on their social media, you can see they've been a racist. This is not just, an accident. And when they go to jail or when they lose their job, white people will GoFundMe them into retirement. Okay, a good retirement. Something happened with us, and we ain't even got 5 on it.
The kid that shot the 2 people in Wisconsin, the 16-year-old kid, the cops let him walk right past.
Yeah.
His GoFundMe might have been, I'm reaching, I don't know exact number, but I think it was like $1 million.
You're not
the guy from Silver Spoons, I think, gave him like $250,000. I'm like, I thought child actors were broke. What are you doing out here?
Because they understand the power of their money. They understand how to use their money for power. We have to come to an understanding of that. So it's the money, it's our health, it's our vision, it's our unity. We have to be united. We have to be united. We're not gonna accomplish anything in this country if we always saying, oh, the white man this, the white man that. Yes, don't get me wrong. The white man plays his part in keeping us down, but we got to play our part in getting us up.
Yeah. Well, and I think sometimes we take it like we don't take things seriously. I think honestly, like when I look back when Monique told us to boycott Netflix, I was like, nah, girl, I'm out. Don't even worry about it. But like when we look back, we realize there were actual issues maybe we should have stood behind, you know? But I think sometimes we just dismiss things. We're like, oh, it's going to cost me too much, or oh, I'll have to feel it. And I don't think we understand the point of protest and boycotts are so that people feel it. You have to feel it a little bit so they can feel it a lot of it. And if we can't get to the point where we're willing to have some discomfort, we'll never be at the place where we can actually make impact.
That's the problem right there. That's the problem right there. The problem is we got too comfortable. We don't want to be inconvenienced.
Yeah, not at all.
When they organized the bus boycott in Alabama, you don't think that was inconvenient to walk back and forth to work every day for and that thing, the bus boycott, people don't realize the bus boycott lasted like 9-10 months.
There was nothing
every day to work back and forth. That was inconvenient.
Yeah.
But it was like, we're going to show y'all that we're willing to be inconvenient. We're willing to inconvenience ourselves to prove a point. And what it also did, it was twofold. It messed their money up. That's where you hit white people at in their pocket. Once their money was messed up, they said, okay, these Negroes can sit wherever they want to sit on the bus.
Did you want my seat? Do you want to drive?
Yeah, you can drive the bus if you want. Just get on the bus.
But you know what? We don't want to look broke. We don't want to look down. We don't want to look low. I saw this meme going around. They were saying like the reason people are telling you don't travel in COVID is because they broke and they can't afford it. Are you kidding me? Do you really think we cannot afford these $88 tickets on this airplane? Like that is not the thing. But you need the world to feel like even in the midst of the pandemic, you can travel and you can look good. And I'm like, I don't even know if you're living your life. You just want us to see you live your life. And Black people are having a really hard time many days seeming to be like just at like a level place. Like we gotta turn up. We gotta, show them our life is lit. And that stops us from making really good decisions, especially financially, because we would rather people see us in Gucci than us build our own version or build something that's better. Like we need the world to validate us in ways that other people do.
We don't have any real wealth. Black people don't have any real wealth. So it really you got to break it down to like it's smallest compound. Like we don't really own much. We don't have a lot of money. Yeah. We don't own a lot of land. We don't have very many companies that are Black owned. So it goes down to the basic point is it's like we put our wealth on our body. It's like we have to show our worth through our clothing and our jewelry and our Instagram and where we go on vacation and stuff like that, because we don't really own anything. So to seem like we're keeping up with the Joneses, so to speak, it's all material.
Yeah.
Whereas take a guy like Bill Gates, for example. Bill Gates is worth $85 billion.
Right.
He does not dress. He doesn't have to dress like he's balling. He don't have a Gucci belt. He don't have a diamond earring. He don't have none of the trappings because he understands real wealth doesn't have to be on your ass.
Mm-hmm.
You understand? But Black people, we have that thing where we don't have anything else to do to showcase our wealth, so it turns inward. Like I got to look at least like I'm worth something. So even people in the projects, girls in the projects have $3,000 purses.
Listen,
because they have to. Because when you don't have anything, you don't own anything. You have to at least look the part.
Yeah, like No joke. Like girls in the projects, listen, they weave game be like on. Do you hear me? They buy the bundles I'm never gonna pay for. Like I just can't buy it at $120 a bundle, but they will swing them and put 5 bundles in down to their butt and be fly. But then they gotta go back home to nothing. And don't get me wrong, I might not have been in the project, but I made horrible financial decisions sometimes because there's also something about living in a world that's so tough. Is sometimes you just want something that's making you feel good in the moment. And we let those feel good moments. No lie, I'll tell you this. My cousin was murdered, right? And I spent like a week taking food over to my cousin and making sure they were okay. I leave her house and it's right before the funeral. So I'm kind of like putting my, preparing my mind to go to the funeral. I leave my cousin's house. I go to Louis Vuitton, spend $7,000. $7,000.
Woo! Woo!
And I just walk out like, okay.
Your cousin was like, girl, you crazy?
right. But here's the problem. It was just grief. I bought the same bag in 2 different colors, just foolish stuff. And I walked out and I came home and I was going into my closet to put it up and I picked something up off the carpet, right? And I was like, I hate this carpet, like in my house, like it's time to get rid of it. I looked over at the Louis bag. I said, this is 1/3 of what it costs to get new floors in your house, fool. The next morning, I go back. I take the stuff back to Louis with no issues, right? I'm not feeling embarrassed or nothing. I call the flooring company and I say, hey, I need new floors in my house. Why was I going to make that's not an investment. At least flooring, I can sell my house, right? You're doing something that actually you should be doing with your money. But like, it was just the grief of it all. Like, I just needed a moment for nothing to matter. And then I woke up, next day and like, oh, you dumb. Let's go fix this. Don't be dumb anymore.
We all go through it, but nobody's exempt from it. I used to go, when I was on a sitcom a couple of years ago, I was making a lot of money every Friday. I would get a big check and I would go pop bottles the whole weekend. And then one day it hit me like, you know what? The same amount of money I spent to sit in this club and pop bottles and see the same chicks that I see in Hollywood every day, I could have spent 1/3 of this and been in Puerto Rico somewhere on a beach. Or seen the world, and broadened my horizons, or went to London and took a picture of Big Ben and went to Paris and saw the Louvre. And I'm like, you know what? That's where I'm at now. Now it's like traveling. I'm all about traveling now.
Yeah, I'm with you. I had to make bigger decisions.
It is indeed the case that the virus, COVID, all of its many manifestations, is teaching us a lot about what matters the most, and the materialism that is ubiquitous in this culture that all of us fall into. Some of us have much more money to spend on that materialism than others, but I do think that what the truth, the nugget of truth that I'm hearing in this conversation is we have to have a different vision coming out on the other side. And that vision, to your point, is unity. It's some collaboration. It's a clear sense of vision and leveraging the gifts, the assets, the wealth, the little or small or big that we have for a future that we can actually give out to our kids. And so I do hope that all of you that are listening can take some of this wisdom and put it to use. Who knew that Tony Rock was a emerging philosopher and was a financial advisor and a relationship expert and an organizer? Who knew all that was in the great Tony Rock? I thought we was gonna get some jokes. We got the blueprint for the revolution.
No. I have a question though.
I want to make one more point. There's never going to be, after COVID, hopefully, there'll never be another time in our lives where the world will just come to a complete halt. So we have to really understand, like, this is the best time ever prep for when the world opens back up.
Yeah.
Right.
Everything you ever wanted to get in line, everything you ever wanted to get together, and you didn't have the time. This is the perfect time to get everything in order. So when the doors open up, you're a whole different person. You're in a whole different mind frame, and you're ready to go and get it.
That's what I'm hoping. I gained a lot of weight, so I've been like trying to time it out. And like 3 months before it's time to leave, I'm gonna be super fine when I leave here. But right now, I'm just eating. Don't worry about it. I got time to prep for when it's time to leave. But no, for real, I gotta ask you this. This show, Living Biblically, so I'm a preacher, right? I've seen a number of like shows, and every time they bring God in, I'm like, you're killing me, Smalls, right? Like they do the craziest things. Like I was watching Boomerang. They have this young preacher on there, and every time they say something, they like, bless up. And I'm like, who says this? Who walks around and does this? Like, he calls alcohol the devil's juice, and they making us look bad. Please tell me that you ain't gonna take away no more of my street cred as a preacher with living biblically. That somehow
it's very difficult to bring the Bible into television for some reason. People don't want their Bible and their TV together.
Right.
People like, I want to watch TV to get away from preaching. So living biblically, sadly to announce, has been canceled since.
Oh,
but I think that's what it was. It was people didn't want church in their living room on Monday at 8 o'clock. It's like this is my escape time. This is my time to drink something or smoke something and watch TV and don't have to worry about the what the teachings are telling me. So I don't think they wanted it in their face like that.
It was like BB and CeCe when they was doing their crossover music, and BB and CeCe would come on in the club, and people like, oh man, you messing up my buzz.
Yeah, it's like you have no idea what I was saying to that girl just now.
Oh God, I hear you.
Great Tony Rock.
It's like when you go on the Apollo and sing a gospel song and get booed. They're like, yo, this is the Apollo, man. We don't want that in here.
You're like, Jesus, how you boo Jesus? Like this, boo.
Listen, I am excited that we got a chance to host the Great Tony Rock. We went overtime because this was so good. I'm appreciative of you, brother.
When's the last time you seen 3 black people work overtime?
Look, especially in COVID, right?
Listen, you just gotta put that camera on, like
we lucky to have a job in COVID, right? So it ain't overtime. Tony Rock, y'all follow him. If you're not following him, stay on top of this brother. He's brilliant. He's a super dope soul. He's for the people, y'all. You heard him talking. You can't talk like that unless you for the people. So don't let nobody make you think that he ain't. Amen. He didn't make that up on the Mass for the People show.
We gotta fix us first. Us first.
Yeah, for the people. God bless you,
I want to say before I go, I want to say Black Lives Matter and rest in peace, Breonna Taylor.
Amen. The Great Tony Rock, y'all. Give him some love. Show him some love. Man, what a great finish. That was all right. Look, Latasha Brown got caught in the field in Georgia, so we're going to have her next week. So y'all tune in. We're going to talk about Georgia, the election that's happening in Georgia, historic. We must make sure that we are pushing all of our family and friends in Georgia to turn out to vote. Today is the voter registration deadline. So if you haven't registered to vote yet, go to vote.org. If you're watching this and you're in Georgia, you can still go to vote.org and register to vote. Check your status. Make sure that you are registered for this very important election that's coming up on January 5th. Early voting starts December 14th. So it's very important for the next several weeks that we get this word out and do all that you can to make sure that we let our voices be heard. We're getting ready to sign off. This is Pastor Mike and the great Reverend Doctor. What's your name, girl?
Oh, it don't even matter. Just that chocolate girl. Hey, chocolate. You call me in the hood. Hey, chocolate.
Dr. Brianna Parker from the Black Millennial Cafe. We'll see you next week with more Mass for the People. God bless y'all. We love y'all. Stay safe. Stay strong. Wear your mask. Wash your hands. Social distance. If you must, please shelter in place and stay safe at home. Peace.
Black. Don't forget to